Today,
Begin. It's time, almost time. Yeah.
very good morning to all of you. Today is the 15th day of ICPR sponsored special lecture series on values and well-being, classical and contemporary Indian philosophical perspectives to celebrate the Indian Philosophers' Day. Today, we have with us Professor C.D. Sebastian, Department of Philosophy, IIT Bombay. Now, I would like to request Ananya Pal, Assistant Professor of Philosophy, Kazi Nazrul University, to deliver welcome address and introduce our speaker. Ananya.
Yeah. Thank you, Doctor. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Okay. Good morning, respected speaker, my senior and junior colleagues of the academia, dear students and participants, I welcome you all on behalf of the Department of Philosophy, Kaji Nazrul University, on the 14th day 14th lecture, sorry, it's the 15th day and 14th lecture. 14th lecture of the ICPR sponsored special lecture series on values and well-being, classical and contemporary Indian philosophical perspectives. We express our gratitude to the Indian Council of Philosophical Research for facilitating this priceless academic exchange. We are also ever grateful to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Shadhan Chakraborty, for encouraging us to undertake various programs and mentoring us throughout these processes. Today, we are extremely honored to have with us Professor C.D. Sebastian from the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences, Indian Institute of Technology, Bombay, where he has been teaching since 2004. Professor Sebastian has an extraordinarily rich academic career. After completing his PhD from Banaras Hindu University, he moved on to University of Bristol for his postdoctoral research. He has received many prestigious awards and fellowships of national and international repute, including the Deutscher Akademischer Austauschdienst or DAD in 2010. Professor Sebastian is also member of some major academic bodies around the world, including Society for Asian and Comparative Philosophy, Montreal, Canada, and Society of Intercultural Philosophy, Köln, Germany. His areas of interest and research are varied and include Indian philosophy, especially Buddhist philosophy, Shankha philosophy, and Vedanta philosophy, comparative philosophy, emotion or empathy and moral cognition, and philosophy of religion. Sir is a prolific writer and has over 130 publications, including monographs, articles, and chapters in books and journals. Some of his recent publications are a revisit into the culture of the early Syrian Christians of Kerala, Indian in culture, not Hindu in culture, published in 2020. Uh, the Cloud of Nothingness, The Negative Way in Nagarjun and John of the Cross, published in 2016. Uh, Another one that is forthcoming, I don't know, sir, whether it is already published.
Not yet.
Buddhism is this. Okay, okay. So this is forthcoming. Buddhism Essays on Ethics and Religion. Some of his recent uh, articles in journals include Compassion as a Moral Ideal in Buddhism, Insights from the Bodhicharya of Shantideva, published in 2021, and Free Will and Divine Plan, a philosophical response during the time of pandemic, published in 2020. These are just the tip of the iceberg because Sir has a lot and lot of publications. Today, Sir will be delivering his lecture on the sub-theme Ethical Values and Well-being from the viewpoint of Buddhist ethics. We express our heartiest thanks to Sir for giving us his valuable time from his very busy schedule. All of us are eagerly awaiting for this lecture. Over to you, sir.
Let me start with the sharing if it is visible. Can you see something?
Not yet, sir.
Can you see something now?
Yeah, it's loading, sir. Yeah, we can see it now.
Can you see the entire screen?
But sir, it's very small.
Okay, okay, I will. Can you?
Yes, yes,
Can you see it now?
Yes, sir.
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay,
Properly. Full screen.
properly, right? Very good, very good.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for the kind introduction, Dr. Pal. Right? Am I pronouncing it correctly?
Yes, Pal. Yes, sir. Exactly.
I don't know your full name. Excuse me. I'm so sorry. I should have learned it before. And
Sir,
Dr.
sir, it's Ananya.
Ananya. Thank you, Ananya, for
Yeah.
your lovely and warm welcome. It's really endearing to be part of this Department of Philosophy in your university. And I appreciate Dr. Debrata Saga, the colleagues, and all those who are here, participants, organizing such a wonderful lecture series from 4th July to 20th. That means 15 days are over now. Means going to be over on values and well-being, classical and contemporary Indian perspectives, and it's really good. I really admire and appreciate your zeal and your earnestness in organizing such a wonderful seminar. And allow me to thank Dr. Debrata Saha for inviting me to deliver today's free lecture on ethical values and well-being from the viewpoints of Buddhist ethics. I'm aware that there was another talk day before yesterday on the same topic, right? Right? Hello? Can you hear
Yes, sir.
me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Sir. Yes, sir.
I will ask you, there was a talk on the same topic. So I hope I am not repeating something what the other speaker had told you, spoken to you. However, my lecture will be on Buddhist ethics strictly based on a text that is one of the best texts on ethical life and well-being in Indian tradition, and that's Bodhicharya Avatara. And I am focusing myself on that text only. And why? Because during my research, my studies, focused study is what is encouraged by all of us here in our department. And I would like to call out what is there in the Buddhist text, classical text of Shanti Deva's Bodhicharya Avatara, and its Buddhist ethical implications on values and well-being. So this is what I am going to do. And as I said, I am sitting with a candle now, and a candlelit lecture which I am giving for the first time. So it's wonderful. There is something always new we learn. Sorry. Okay, so let me begin. If I am not audible, if I'm not clear, please stop me in between, please. Ananya, please feel free to stop me. Okay.
Okay, sir. Okay. Sir, it's
Okay.
already,
Okay.
the setup is already looking so spiritual, sir.
So the Buddhist text in Sanskrit named Bodhicharya, didn't tell me how much time are you going to give me?
Sir, as you
How
please,
much?
it's almost, you can talk for 2 hours, sir, if you need.
So then you will be sick of me and tired of me, and that will go against
No,
my
sir.
topic of compassion. Okay. When I would like to, when you want me to stop, please tell me if it is time. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Are you with me?
Yeah.
Yeah. The Buddhist text in Sanskrit named Bodhicharya Avatara or the Bodhisattva Charya Avatara of Shanti Deva is one of the greatest classics of world philosophy. The Bodhisattva doctrine that one encounters in this text is the paradigm for ethical values and well-being, which emphasizes compassion, as a moral ideal. And that's what I wanted to say. Compassion as a moral ideal, where we come to know what are the values and what are the things which I can do for the well-being and welfare of our humanity. And my lecture has 5 parts, if you allow me. The first part of my lecture is something, a small brief introduction about the Bodhicharya Avtara. Then my second part, I am looking at compassion as a moral ideal. Then the third part of my lecture, I will shed light on compassion as an ethical paradigm for personal transformation and communitarian empathy towards every sentient being. And in the fourth part of my lecture, I look at compassion as an ethical paradigm to unravel the anti-essentialism that Buddhism is advocating. Buddhism is an anti-essentialist system, and all other Indian systems, Indian systems, if you ask me, all are essentialist systems. And Buddhism is only one system which is having the temperament of anti-essentialism. Advocating and research and outlook of an anti-casteism, anti-class, egalitarian societal view. And in the fifth part, I sum up my lectures. That's it. Okay. So let me come to the first part of my lecture. Among the philosophical traditions of India, one finds in Buddhism the most robust approach that gives preeminence to ethics and well-being. And with ethical paradigms of Indian tradition, and Buddhism can be considered, if you consider it as a religion, it's an ethical religion. If you consider it as a philosophical religion, it is a ethical philosophy. And compassion taken as a moral ideal, as seen in Buddhism, would make a transformation in oneself, and in effect and in turn transforms the few people around whom one interacts with. This is what one finds in the entire career of Bodhisattva in Mahayana Buddhism. Bodhisattva ideal that one encounters in the Buddhist text, Bodhicharya Avatar of Shantideva, is paradigm for compassion as a moral ideal, as I said. And allow me to tell something. My area of specialization or interest, what I have done for last 3 decades, from 1995 to almost going to be 3 decades now, is on Indian Sanskrit Buddhism. I'm not at all into Chinese, Japanese, or Zen, or Tibetan, or Mongolian Buddhism. My studies and research is in the Sanskrit literature, Buddhist Sanskrit literature, not even Pali. So my moorings are only one particular aspect of Buddhist school of thought, where the texts are in Sanskrit, namely the Mahayana texts, especially Madhyamika and Yogacara Buddhism. These 2 schools are my cup of tea. Okay. Bodhicharya Avadara, or the Bodhisattva Charya Avadara of Shantideva, 8th century. Let me change. 8th century stands out as one of the greatest classics of world philosophy and Buddhist literature. In this text, one finds Shantideva exhorting the readers of and his Buddhist fellow religionists to make efforts to upkeep the well-being and welfare of other sentient beings, not only human beings, any being which is conscious, any being which has got life, any other sentient beings, by reducing suffering. In this text, the Buddhist ethics seeks to solve a deep existential predicament, the problem of suffering. And this is common to every being, the problem of suffering. All the conscious beings, they all have some sort of element of suffering. The most important contribution of the text is the installation of compassion as a fundamental moral value and prototype of the Bodhisattva compassion. Engagement in the world, moral ideal. Compassion that the text sheds light on is not a reflexive emotional response, not a sheer desire. Instead, it's a genuine commitment manifested in thought, speech, and action. Manasa, vacha, karmana. To act for the well-being and welfare of every sentient being. I would mention here that this lecture is a part of my latest study on a large research project on which I publish these days, Emotion, Empathy, and Moral Cognition in Buddhism. Allow me to spell out one or two sentences about it. Emotion in Indian philosophical world is not something bad. For Aristotle, emotion is a weak thing. Rationality is the highest thing. But for Indians, especially for the Buddhist philosophizing, the call of the heart, the empathy is in a way make you sense of the injustice and justice which you encounter in the world. To put on the shoes of others and look at the sufferings of others as one is suffering. The power has come. Can you see me now? Yeah?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So emotion is not something bad in Indian philosophical traditions, especially in Buddhist philosophy. And emotion, moral cognition, is one of the most important thing. And any sense of justice I should have, then I should know what is injustice done to others. I should not simply sympathetic to that one. I should feel with the other. Then only the injustice done to someone, I can see that there is an injustice. And this is what the emotion. So every moral cognition, any moral judgment I make, is not a rational judgment alone. Emotion plays a major role. It's not the of emotion to feel with the other. That's what my entire gamut of operations in the Buddhist moral cognition and empathy and emotion. This paper also is this presentation lecture also is a part of that larger study of emotion, empathy, and moral cognition in Buddhism. Okay. So let us come to the text. Mahayana Buddhism's is a particular text. I know that you know it, but for the students, those who are participating, those who are with me, let me say a couple of words about the text. After all, texts are important for our research. The Mahayana tradition rose and developed in the beginning of the present era. The rise of Mahayana marks a new phase in the Buddhism as a distinguishable feature of which was an integration of the religious worship with philosophy and ethical practices. The Mahayana Sutras and the Prajnaparamita literature, the source on which Mahayana is based, deal with religious philosophy with emphasis on the notion of all that is Shunya, Sarvam Shunya. The description of the character and activity of Bodhisattva, along with the spiritual and ethical practice which she has to undertake, is a significant part of this literature. Let me have a word on Shanti Deva. This is very fascinating to know about Shanti Deva. Let us have a word about him. Let me have a word on Shanti Deva. The historical accounts available about the life of Shanti Deva are very scanty. According to Buddhist historian Bhutan, this is a Tibetan historian, Shanti Deva was son of a king called Kalyana Varman of Saurashtra, now in Gujarat. He renounced his future kingship, fled to Nalanda, and took monastic life. Let me tell you one thing. The first centuries of present era, AD, means first century, second century, third century, Gujarat, Ujjaini, Avantika, these all were the centers of Buddhist learning, and Buddhists were very many there. And there were many monasteries in Ujjain, in Gujarat, and in many parts. Today, you don't find anything. Today, nothing of that sort is remaining here. But Shanti Deva comes from Saurashtra, where Buddhism had a strong following. He renounced his future kingship, fled to Nalanda, and took up monastic life. That's it. Shantideva flourished during the period spanning the end of the 7th century and the first half of the 8th century, probably 695 to 743. And this is what historical accounts which I get from all the sources. Shantideva belonged to the Prasangika school. I hope you know what is Prasangika Buddhism. Prasangika Buddhism is a what you can say, a logical school of Buddhist, school branch of the Madhyamika school, which advocates reductio ad absurdum. It negates things but doesn't hold on to a position, unlike the Advaitins. And there is a Nedi concept in Advaita to establish the existence of a supreme reality, Brahman. But that is not. This Buddhist reductio ad absurdum means negation without holding on to any thesis, without establishing anything, to show the inconsistency in our thought. I am not going into that one. That's more of epistemological and that paradigm. I'm not going to that one. When you come here, I will tell you. Okay, the two works of Shantideva, Siksha Samuchaya and Bodhicharya Avatara, are the most important texts. They are considered to be the most popular works in entire Mahayana literature. There have been opinions that Shantideva wrote the third work, Sattva Samuchaya. However, it is plausibly, in all possibility, ascertained that a Sattva Samuchaya is not a separate work, but only a designation given to the commentary consisting mainly of the citations of the early Mahayana works in 27 karikas or memorial verses contained in Siksha Samuchaya. So this is what, but whatever it may be, our interest is Bodhicharya Avatara. But for the students of those who are listening to me, please remember there is a great philosopher called Shantideva who established and flourished himself in India in some time in the beginning of the 8th century. The first half of the 8th century, and one of his most fascinating book text is Bodhicharya Avatara and Siksha Samuchaya. Utna yaad rakhiye, bas, this is more than enough. Let us pay respect to that great scholar who gave us this one. The text of Bodhicharya Avatara was composed by Shantideva at Nalanda University, something during 8th century. It stands as one of the greatest classics of the world of philosophy and Buddhist literature, and enormously influential in Tibet and all the traditions of Tibetan Buddhism. It is regarded as the principal source of ethical thought of Mahayana Buddhism. The title is variously translated. There are various translated, most often as a guide to Bodhisattva way of life or engaging in the Bodhisattva day. These titles are due to the translation that follow from the canonical Tibetan tradition of the title of the book. Tibetans are following it. The Tibetan Mongolian translations and the Sanskrit title is given as the Bodhicharya Avatara, which translates as an introduction to the conduct of Bodhisattva, Bodhisattva's actions and habits. This is what. So let us leave it there. And you know, Abhira's Sanskrit text is a shorter version, and we have this one in. Okay, I'm not going to give you the detailed study of this one, and this is consisting of 10 chapters, the text. And let me come to the, we have taken 20 minutes. Is it too boring, Ananya? Dr. Shaka, is it very boring?
No, sir. No, sir. Not at all. Not at all.
Our people have started sleeping. We can't know. They are sitting at home. How many participants are there?
Sir, your voice is cracking.
Participants are there?
Sir, total, it's right now it's 83.
Okay. I hope they are, I am making something sensible to them. Huh? But whatever I have been saying so far, this is what. So our interest in the text is this, that it gives ample chances for it to brood over the ethical nuances of a human being from the Buddhist perspective. And that is not an ethics for oneself, for the society. The transformation of oneself, it will inevitably change the society. That's what we are going to look at it from this text. And for that, I have picked up the Bodhicharya Avatara of Shantideva as a specimen text, and it gives a philosophy of 4 of us. And that's what I am going to say. This is what I have been saying so far. But remember, there is Shantideva and there is a Bodhicharya Avatara text. If you remember these two, that's more than enough from my lecture. The rest you will search for yourself. I am coming to my own reading into it. Okay. Next, second part of my talk lecture is about the compassion as a moral ideal. Okay, and And before going ahead, for my friends, those who are students, I know faculty professors, they will know. And let me tell you, let us bring bring to their attention that the ethical theories. Friends, students, the ethics as a normative ethics. Either you can say prescriptive ethics and descriptive ethics and prescriptive ethics. And prescriptive ethics is normative. There is norm, that is normative ethics. And normative ethics, again, we have many ethical theories. One is virtue ethics, second is deontology and consequentialism. And about this ethical theory, I did not tell you about it. But Buddhism is not a deontology. Buddhism is not a consequentialism. Buddhism will go in the ambit of virtue ethics. Why? What is this virtue ethics? This is what I would like to tell my students, those who are listening to me. See, deontology will impel you to say duty for duty's sake. It's you have to do. There is an ought to be net that you have to act it, because this is national choice. You have to do. You have no other option. So you judge the good and bad on the basis of the duty you are doing. You have to do it. Whereas when you judge something which is good or bad is on the basis of the consequence, on the basis of the end result. If you did something and if the result is good, and you say that this is good, so consequentialism. And Buddhist ethics will never pay attention to these two theories, ethical theories. You do it, you do something, not for sake of getting liberation or salvation or getting anything, not for any consequences. You do it not because there is an command for you, there is a rational or scriptural command, injunction, telling you do it. It is nothing like that. Both are abnegated in the Buddhist paradigm. And you do it for the sake of it. It is not for anything other than that. I do it, I prepare my lectures, and I lecture it for the sake of it. It's not for anything other than that. Do an action for the sake of it. There is a motive that I should do it, and through which I build up my character, through which I build up my excellence, through which I know what I am doing. There is no consequence which is desired. I do it for the heck of it. I do it for the sake of it, not for as a duty command, not as a consequence command. This is virtue ethics, and in Indian philosophical traditions, if you want to look at virtue ethics, Buddhism is the only system which speaks of virtue ethics. Please, anybody who wants to do a further study can go into it. Okay, so this is what I would like to tell you before I begin my next exposition. Among all other traditions in India, the Buddhist tradition is one of the most significant that gave a considerable importance to compassion for personal and social transformation. The Buddha had exhorted his disciples to go forth in compassion for the world, for the well-being and welfare of all people, all creatures. Charaka Pikkave, Charikam Behujana Hidaya, Behujana Sukhaya, Lokanukam Ataya Hidaya, Deva Manusana. Monks, go forth for the well-being and welfare of this is in Bali, go for every sentient being. And you go forth. You should not stop yourself sitting in the four walls of the monastery. You should not sit at your home. Get out, go forth, and do for the sake of this, be impelled by this compassion, for the sake of every sentient being. Compassion that Buddhism emphasizes is a moral ideal. And hence, the Buddhist tradition believed in virtue ethics. That's what I said at the beginning. Not so much on deontology or consequentialism. Hermeneutics of Buddhist legacy, especially the ideal and the doctrine of Bodhisattva, will bring home the significance and compassion seen as moral ideal in Buddhism. The moral ideal of compassion will pave for individual transformation and which enhances social transformation. In other words, individual transformation is a prerequisite for social transformation. And this is what, I should reform myself. Then I should reform my family members. I should reform my family. Then I should I will be able to reform the society. If that doesn't take place in me, personal transformation, nothing is possible in our enterprise. Compassion has its operation first in personal transformation. That's what I was saying. It goes out to embrace others in the same transformation experience. This could be seen from the development of the conception of nirvana that was personal to a more universal and communitarian. And I'm not going to say some more about it. I'm just summarizing. See, the early Buddhism was, if you look at it, the ideal is nibbana. And those who are liberated, though there is something called arhat, one who is a person who is fully liberated. He is an arhat good. And Dr. Sagas, Ananya, Sebastian will only work for his or her own liberation, individual liberation. So in the due course of time, it became a self-centered spiritual practice, well and good. But it became a spiritual practice of the individual, which is of more egoistic. And there are some enlightened Buddhist philosophers who said that this is not the sum and substance of the teaching of the Lord, Buddha. So what they did, they invented. They invented from the original sayings that and what is this Bodhisattva doctrine is all about? Bodhisattva doctrine is a doctrine which speaks about the liberative aspect of humanity, not on single individual terms. The liberation, if something happens, the freedom, the liberation force should be for the whole community, for humanity, for all of us. I cannot desire for a universal, for a individualistic nibbana or nirvana. I should look for the self, the liberation of all. And this is what Bodhisattva. So realizing that Bodhisattva, because his or her compassion, makes a vow, that is known as Bodhisattva vow. I will not reach the final stage as long as every sentient being is reaching that shore, and I don't want. So I will remain here as long as it is needed. And I will go to even to the world of the pretas. I will become a kira makoda. I will become worm for the sake of giving them their final freedom. So this is the self-application of the Bodhisattva ideal, and this is something noble ideal. Okay, so this is the Bodhisattva ideal which transforms the things. And there is a motive which is to liberate every sentient being. There was also a tendency towards spiritual selfishness, and that tendency is negated by the Bodhisattva ideals. And what happens in contrast to the Arhatva, you see in the Theravada Buddhism, in the let me tell my students also listening to me, Buddhist traditions are considered into two traditions broadly. Please don't say Hinayana Buddhism and Mahayana Buddhism. Hinayana is a gali, it's an abusive term, it's a derogative term. And as students of philosophy, Indian philosophy, please never use the word Hinayana. Instead of, you always use Theravada Buddhism, Mahayana Buddhism. And it's these two camps, in the philosophical and religious gamut. The southern Buddhism means the Buddhism of Tibet, the Buddhism of Thailand, Buddhism of Burma, Sri Lanka, these all are known as southern Buddhism. And they are the Theravadins. And they are the people, those who really advocated the early Pali Buddhist canon and adhere to that one. Whereas Northern Buddhism, the Buddhism which you see in China, and in some parts of Laos, Cambodia, other side of the things, Bhutan, Sikkim, Ladakh, Himachal Pradesh, Arunachal, all these are Northern Buddhism. They have nothing to do with the early Buddhism or Theravada tradition. They all are the Mahayanis, and among them there are differences. And for them, the Bodhisattva ideal is the ideal, not the Arhat, individual liberation. Let me in contrast to the ideal of Arhatva in Theravada Buddhism, who rests satisfied with achieving his own or her own personal liberation and not necessarily actively interested in the welfare of others, the Bodhisattva is actuated by the motiveless altruism plays a major role. Bodhisattva helps all beings not only to attain spiritual goal of nirvana, but also to obtain more advantages and happiness and well-being in this world. So the austere and negative attitude of the
Sir, sorry to interrupt, but your voice is frequently breaking, sir. And so is the video.
my so there is a problem with my network.
Yeah.
How is it now? How is it now?
Yeah, it's better, sir.
How is it?
It's better.
Oh, sorry. There is some problem in our network now. We have to be, though we are in the most advanced technological institute, we have these problems.
So here also in West Bengal, there is rains in some parts, so we can understand that.
In the last 2-3 days, we have torrential rains and everything is disturbed here. We have waterlogging everywhere. So that must be the reason. Ananya, can you hear me?
Yeah, sir. Yeah.
Here, Aranya, you listen to me for half an hour. Pardon?
Sir, I just wanted to ask a question.
Please.
Actually, I'm not well versed in Buddhist philosophy, or actually presently I'm working in Western philosophy, so I'm not very well versed. So pardon me if I ask something wrong. Sir, this Bodhisattva kind of liberation seems to echo in the philosophy of Sri Aurobindo when this is talking about universal liberation. So I could just relate and
Ananya, not only in Aurobindo's, not only in Vivekananda's philosophy, Vivekananda also has the same notion coming up. Okay.
Yeah.
In the philosophy of Tagore is something like this.
Yeah.
He doesn't abnegate, like he doesn't run away from the world. Okay.
Yeah.
And if you take the 73 hymn of Gitanjali, he says that no, friends, I don't want to run away from the world. I have to be part of the world and I have to be with the world. So this attitude. And the most important thing among the Indian other orthodox traditions, if you take the religious text, Gita has got a conception of Loka Samgraha.
Okay.
Loka Samgraha. Loka Samgraha is a concept in the 3rd chapter of Gita, the 3rd chapter, verse 30. The word, that's the one. What is this? This is a corollary. It is something connected to the Karma Yoga or Nishkama Karma. Okay. The Loka Samgraha is a person. Loka Samgraha means the well-being, one who works for the welfare and well-being of the humanity, the whole Loka. Okay. That's the concept. And this is akin. It is similar to the Bodhisattva ideal.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, there is no person, one doesn't work for oneself, one's own liberation. One works for the, this is not only spiritual liberation. If you don't have Ojki Roti, it's my duty to share my bread with you or make you get that roti. This is not only spiritual well-being the Bodhisattva is ready to share with. Okay, it's material, even comfort, everything. This is something, this worldly aspect, and what is important in the Buddhist parlance, Ananya, since you asked, which you will not find in any Indian tradition. They say that you can reach liberation only in this world here and now. Okay.
Yeah.
Nagarjuna will say, na sansarasya nirvanat kinchitasti visheshanam. Na nirvanasya sansarat kinchitasti visheshanam. Okay, so vyavaharam anasatya paramartho na deshade. Paramartham anagamya nirvanam na adhigachade. Means if you are not in this world and if you are not going to negate your vyavahar, in your world of here and now, then don't think that you are going to get liberated. You have to be here and you should live here, you should embrace here, and that's it. And from here, you become what you are. So there is no negation of the world like Tagore. But all of this, Aurobindo has got a disdain for the whatever is, because there is an involution happening, and there is an evolution to go to the higher spiritual supramind level. Okay. Not with the Tagore, not with the Buddhist ethics, Buddhist paradigm. Okay, let us leave it there. That's for some other. Okay, so I'm happy that at least you intervened. So I leave it there, and Bodhisattva ideally, I hope you understood, but what I wanted to say is that is something more than that is the application of it. You compassion and the anti-essentialism. This is what Bodhisattva ideal, and this is what I am interested in. This is what happens with the compassion and egalitarian society. And if you look at the Buddhist ethics, this is the welfare and well-being of all. And what I am going to delineate is what I gather from the Buddhist paradigm. Okay, this is the most important part of my paper. If you pay attention to, please lend your ears for at least 10 minutes. This is what compassion, anti and egalitarian society. The moral ideal of compassion will rule out the discrimination that surfaces due to philosophy of essentialism. Ananya, let me explain to our friends, students a little bit. What is essentialism and what is non-essentialism? Essentialism means, what happens, everything will have an essence. In the sense, essence is predominant, essence is prior, and existence is something secondary. I'm not speaking of existentialism. This is essentialism. And what happens, if you take the Vedic tradition, Vedic philosophy is an essentialist philosophy. End of the day, there is the Atman. Okay, and end of the day, there is an essence. You change only your bodies, but the soul remains the same. The soul doesn't change. Na jayade mriteka pachatitnanam bhutva bhavitna pujaha aho ajo nityam shashadoyam na hanyade hannimane sharire. Means whatever is living in the body cannot be killed. It is there is something essentially, there is a permanent, eternal Atman which is existing you. Whereas in the Buddhist paradigm, there is no permanent hard stuff called something which is existing. Things exist because of causes and conditions. And Ananya in that sense is not a permanent entity. Ananya is constantly changing. Even if Ananya has got a soul, that soul is subject to change. It can be good today and it can be bad tomorrow. So there is, I am here, and this is, I am here, and I make the future course of my actions. There is a change, there is possibility, there is potentiality. And it is, I am here not because of my past residues, and I am not bound in this world. And there is always a change taking place. So this is the essentialistic, anti-essentialistic tendency which I see in the Buddhism. That's why even caste, when you pronounce as a varna, you are born in a varna, that itself is an essentialism. When I say that I belong to this family, I am, so that ascription is giving me an entity, thus I am part of this one. That means I can't change. How I will, the Vasala Sutta, Buddha will say, one does not become a Brahmana by birth in a Brahmin family. One becomes a Brahmana because of his actions. One becomes a Kshatriya because of his actions. One becomes a Shudra because of his actions. Actions is going to define what you are. By birth, nobody becomes nobody is what he is. There is no permanent being as such. So this is what. So this aspect is I am highlighting here. Let me come. There is no hard essence of things. By birth, in Sanskrit we call it jati, birth, from, one does not get one's being in an essentialist sense. One becomes what one is in the constant process of becoming. There is no caste in which one is born. There is no divine origin of caste at all. Buddhism advocated egalitarianism in all its respects. Equality of human beings, equality of sexes. However, it is a fact that when it came to the entry of women in the Buddhist Sangha, the Buddha denied their entry. You know that one. But the good sense of an insistence of Anand, the most important teacher after Buddha, prevailed, and Buddha gave his consent. You know that one. And they asked Buddha, this is what the debate going on. Oh Lord, is woman not capable of leading houseless state and realizing the fruit of conversion? And to him, Buddha replied, no, Ananda, they are capable. Thus, Buddha declared the equality of sexes, and it has been upheld in the Buddhist tradition. You know the story, what happens in the Vinyas, when the Buddhist nuns were to be incorporated, Buddha said no. Then Ananda said, what nonsense are you talking? We must have talked, because Ananda was with Buddha for 25 years. Ananda was the one who knows intimately what Buddha's teaching is. And Ananda had a chance to argue with Buddha. And he said, what nonsense are you talking? All are equal. So you should allow them to get into Sangha. Then Buddha gives in. And this is the dialogical nature. There is no hard and fast rule within Buddhas. The moral ideal of compassion will prompt one to look at everyone with the same attitude of love, where there is equality of human beings in birth. In the large canvas of classical India, one could trace out two clear-cut identity narratives, namely the Varna Vyavastha of the Vedic tradition and the counter-narrative of the Varna in the Buddhist tradition. These two identity narratives can be deduced from a number of texts and documents, most of which were composed or compiled in the period between 500 BC to 500 AD, the 1 millennium. In the identity narrative, the Hindu tradition, a metaphysical framework was provided by the law of books, which ascribed identity on the basis of birth. Varna Vyavastha, Varna and Ashrama divisions were schemed to maintain the orthodoxy and orthopraxy of Vedic tradition. It's not therefore surprising that both Buddhism and Jainism challenged the orthodoxy and orthopraxis in this period. And this is not mine. This is a quotation from Professor R. Balasubramaniam, Spirit to Spirituality. According to Varna Vyavastha, society is organized into fourfold functional divisions or class. It's a functional, so people say this is something of the, what you can say, that the society's function for forming something, whatever it may be, called Varna, literary color or category. But in due course, there was an emergence of a system of subdivisions in the four Varnas, which further proliferates the class function, gradually turning Varna into a discriminatory, hereditary-based institution. Whatever may be, you and all of us will argue that's only the performance of the society and all, but there is something gradually turning Varna into a discriminatory, hereditary-based institution. At practical level, there was a separation of ritual purity, status of Varna from the actual status of Jati. The theory of Varna is about the social, professional, occupational division of the society, where the duties of the four Varnas, castes or classes enunciated. According to theory, the set duties of, or the dharmas called as Swadharmas, Varna dharmas, are prescribed for everyone as a member of Varna he belongs to or she belongs to. A Brahmana, a Kshatriya, a Vaishya, or Shudra. Varna has a benefit for providing model which is applicable all over India, and castes divide into castes and numerous subcastes. The economy of Varna system exposes a hierarchical structure of the society. Each person, though even if people won't say, that is the fact. Each person is born into a caste and is thereby either superior or inferior to someone else. I quote it and I unquote it. Okay. In theory, Varna Vyavastha is eternal and inviolable, because Lord Krishna says to Arjuna, Chaduru Varnyam Maya Srishtam. I have created the four Varnas. This is, though there is a divine origin of it. There is an essence to it. And that is social ordering of the institution and the social ordering of the society. And this is nothing but an essentialist position, which abnegated in the Buddhist anti-essentialism tradition. In Buddhist discourse, there is an absolute Varna system. And also there is no difference between Varnas. According to Vedic narratives, Varna Vyavastha, which its social gradation therein is an absolute one, and one has to abide by the duties of the Varna. Once I am born in that Varna, I become lifelong, I should be in that. Buddhist narrative considered nothing but a relative division. We read the narrative of the Kannakatala Sutta in Majjhima Nikaya 90, where King Pasenadi of Kosala asking Buddha whether there is any distinction among the four Varnas. And the Buddha telling King Pasenadi, there is no distinction among the four Varnas, their activities and the effect to the society. The narrative goes like this, I quote, now, revered sir, Could there be any distinction, any difference between these four varnas? Then the Buddha replied, I, sir, here speak of no difference. There, that is to say, in freedom as against freedom. It's as though a man, sir, bringing dry sticks from a teak tree were to produce a fire, the heat were to be the result. The another man bringing dry sticks from a salt tree, another man bringing dry sticks from mango tree, another man dry sticks from a fig tree, where produce the same fire and heat were to the result. What do you think about this, sir? Because of the different woods used for the fires, would there be any difference in what is produced? In flame as against the flame, in hue as against the hue, in brilliance as against the brilliance. Then the king said, no reverence, sir. Then Buddha said again, even so it is, sir. With heat created by energy, produced by striving, I did not speak of any difference therein. That in freedom as against freedom, that means there is no difference essentially among the human beings, and in that sense, there should not be also. This has been the basic understanding of the ontological equality of human beings in every Buddhist has had. The Bodhisattva saw this equality in all human beings. The motives want to be compassionate on one and all without any trace of discrimination. This realization of fundamental ontological equality of human beings and approach for an anti-essentialism with regard to sex, caste, brings forth to be compassionate. The conviction on the basis of the opposite rationale of a Bodhisattva has, she consciously makes herself aware of the fundamental relation among the sentient being. From this conviction, there emanates a communitarian empathy, compassion for others in the world. I conclude. The philosophical bedrock of compassion and moral ideal rests on the theory of Buddha nature, Tathagata Garpa. You know, this is a theory which is in the Mahayana Buddhism. And there are two classes of literature in Mahayana Buddhism. One is Prajna Paramita literature, where Prajna, wisdom, is the most important. And there is another class of literature which is known as Tathagata Garpa literature. Tathagata literature extols or praises the compassion dimension of Buddhism. So one is wisdom, other one is compassion. And these two are the highest endowments of a person. Wisdom, one should have wisdom, one should have compassion. And among them, what is the concept of Tathagata Garbha? Tathagata Garbha means, Tathagat means, you know, the meaning of Tathagat is Buddha. Tatha, it means Tatha Agat, one who has come like this. Tatha Gata, one who has gone like that. One who came without any trace and one who went away without any trace. Means, that's it. He came, he went. Without any trace of bad or malicious or kleshas. And that's Tathagata. So this is another appellation for Buddha in the Buddhist tradition, Tathagata. And what is this Tathagata? Everyone has got that essence of that Tathagata, Garbha. All of every sentient being is a matrix, is an essence, not essence as a matrix. One is a potential, what you can say, the potentiality is there in everyone to actualize, to actuate that Buddhahood. So everyone is possessing the Buddhahood in herself or oneself. And that's the doctrine of Tathagata Garbha. Sarva Sattvaha Tathagata Garbhaga means every sentient being is having this potentiality of Tathagata, and that's known as Tathagata Garbha. And you know what is ideal? Buddha nature. According to the theory of Buddha nature, all sentient beings possess the essence, or you call it essence, you call it the matrix, you call it the potentiality, there is no problem. But it is not an actualized form. And you know, and that makes everyone to see the other as what you can say, having potentiality, and they also will become share in the same Buddhahood, which I am going to aspire one day. So that is if that is the realization, one will be having this compassion for every sentient beings. I could stop it here. I have many more pages to read, but I am not reading. It is too boring for you. So that's enough. What I wanted to communicate, I have communicated. Thank you so much. Because 55 minutes are over. Okay.
Thank you so much, sir, for taking us on a journey of self-reflection with your extremely comprehensive lecture. I personally feel very refreshed intellectually and believe that we can take this discussion forward sometime. Hope you will respond to our invitation again in the future and we can have your physical presence among us in our university. Now we can
Sure.
open the now we can open the session for discussion. I request the students and participants to uh, put forward their questions, observations. We also have researchers, and I personally have one observation to share and one question which I have often thought about but have not come across a satisfactory answer. But first, I will want the students to come forward. Then I can ask you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Unfortunately, we are on virtual mode.
Yeah, sir.
Otherwise, I would have got a chance to come to your university.
Yeah, but sir, it will also happen in the future, sir. I'm sure, sir, you will come. I
Yeah,
know
you are too.
it's a bit far away from Kolkata, almost 200 kilometers, but we'll be very glad if you visit our university.
And the professor, your vice chancellor is from Jadavpur University.
Yes.
He is a philosopher, so all the more you should be happy a philosopher has become the vice chancellor.
I'm also a student of Jadavpur University, sir.
Really, I go to Jadavpur every year. Huh?
Okay, okay.
One seminar I go and attend. They invite me. इज्जत के साथ बुलाने से क्यों नहीं जाएंगे? You know, if somebody respect you, call you with invitation, invite you with respect, क्यों नहीं? Hey, why not?
Yes, sir.
Please, please, let us say, open it for our students. Let us focus on them. Huh?
Yeah. So participants, if you have any question. So actually, many of our students and participants, they are comfortable in the mother tongue, Bengali, and that sometimes.
I'm so sorry. I
No,
can't
no,
speak
no.
though.
Yeah, of course. That is sometimes a barrier
No,
in
sir, it's not a
communication.
problem. Sir, no more question.
Yeah. You can ask. If you have something to ask, please go forward.
No, ma'am, it's not a question.
Okay.
It's okay. You know, we people, language is a barrier, Ananya. Language is a barrier, Dr. Saga. So let us leave it there. Huh? Let us. So you have one more session in the afternoon, and with that you will finish everything, right?
Yeah. Sir, can I ask then? Sir, can I
You
put
please,
forward?
please, please,
Okay.
please.
Okay. Sir, I'll share my observation later. My question is that this compassion is deeply rooted in the Buddhist philosophy, no doubt about that. And also, we have read that it protested against this sacrificial ceremonies of the Hindu traditions. But I wonder, I often see that Buddhist monks, they do consume meat. Yeah, and I have asked some people, and they say that they consume it as long as it is not uh, purchased for them, if it is given to them. But by that logic, sir, I can say that I do not consume alcohol, but my friends bring it for me. But we still are creating a consumer base, a demand for this. So why is it a practice, sir? Uh,
Ananya, this uh, food habits are biological needs. Okay, biological needs. And that also these biological needs on the basis of the geographical background. Okay, what one eats here will not be eaten by people as well. So those here all are adjuncts which come with this. Whereas, when it comes to the attitude, the cultivation of an attitude, cultivation of a character, cultivation of excellence, that's your choice. Food doesn't, food doesn't make anybody good or bad. What comes, according to Buddhist philosophy, what one eats doesn't make him impure. What comes out of his person and his heart, that makes him impure. Okay, so that's one thing. Secondly, whatever nature gives, one has to consume as food. As for a Buddhist bhikkhu, he has no choice over his food. वो भीख मांग के रहना पड़ता है, alms giving. You know how Buddha died at the age of 82? He was offered wild boar, jangly sugar. The hunter went and gave him. He received and he ate. Because beggar means monk has no choice over his food. Whatever is available, he should eat. And this choice of food is against their spirituality. And let me tell you, the purity and impurity aspect. The purity and impurity aspect is something not there. Metaphysically, ontologically, Ananya, Dr. Saga, Sebastian, all are made up of 4 elements or 5 elements. End of the metaphysical, ontological foundation of all of us is this one. And this is the same with animals. End of the day, you and I will get dissolved into 5 Mahabhutas. Panch tattva mein milin ho jayenge. So metaphysically, there is no purity and impurity. There is no ontological difference at all. This is what. So what I am saying, the explanations of eating this food or that food, and these all are what you can say, what is added to you only. And food should not make one holy or unholy. Whereas killing, a deliberate attempt to take someone's life, that is going to make you. So in the Buddhist paradigm, whatever it may be, the food. And again, you just take this. You told me about the sacrifices. Vedic hinsa na bhavati. If you kill somebody in a sacrifice, that doesn't become a killing. Okay. Again, jivo jivasya bhojanam. This is the course of the nature, is that one prani, one jiva, dusra prani ko kha lete hain. So how you will stop the tiger? How you will stop the others? So for me, food habits are these are the attributes where we live in. Suppose I live in a vegetarian community, I could have been a vegetarian. Suppose they eat only grass, I also must have eaten grass. So let us not demarcate the goodness and badness on the basis of the food habit. That's something I can't, as a student of philosophy, cannot accept. Whatever you feel like eating, you eat it. And friends, there are vegans. Not even milk they eat. Both mushkil hai unke sath jina. Because what you will give them? They will not even eat milk product. So this purity, impurity, that that is not there. And this body is sacred for them. And you can do the sadhana only if you have a body. So sheel happens when there is a body.
So, sir, we are not monks. Sutapati, please mute your.
I think I am listening to. You can mute her if you want. Yeah.
Sir, so we are not monks. We do not depend on others' alms for food. So we are deliberately going to a shop and to buy chicken or fish, and it is being killed for my needs. So does that can I still call myself compassionate? I am a meat eater, but frequently I am in this moral dilemma that I like animals. I love cats and dogs, but I am eating goat meat. So is it a hypocrisy? So I am like put up with this dilemma sometimes, because it is my choice. I don't have other foods, but still I'm choosing to kill animals. So there is no dearth of other foods.
Ananya, if you eat shakakari food, it also has its own life. It has its own life. Don't eat plants and trees also, because you are killing that also in that sense. इसको आपको मिट्टी खाना पड़ेगा. So please always remember the famous saying in Sanskrit, Jivo Jivaha Jivasya Bhojanam. One Jiva lives on other Jiva. Jivo Jivasya Bhojanam. I eat some other prani. Means it may be a tree, it may be aloo, it may be potato. So there is no way. And this, our morality should not be judged on the basis of food habits. This is what. Secondly, the explanation, food is offered, you can choose and all. For me, that's, compassion towards animals. Yes, you should have. You should not kill. That's it. Especially Mahayana Sutras. Mahayana Sutra Alangara will say that vegetarian should be practiced. There is a text which says so much of, alcoholism and vegetarianism is upheld. But the people, those who are living in the hillsides and the hill countries of in China, Mongolia, Tibet, they need their stamina. So they eat yak, they eat other food. Because if they don't eat what nature provides, they will die. The spirituality will remain one way. So that's why I said food habits are a geographical boundaries gift. What is food for you will be poison for me. So this is what is happening. So let us not think in those lines. But compassion can be there. No, compassion is a gift which you can have.
Okay. The Jains were more strict on this regard, isn't it? In fact, the Jains were.
Ananya, we had, in Benares, when I was a PhD student, we had a national seminar on ahimsa, non-violence. And Buddhist monks also were supposed to give a talk on that one. Okay? And Jains, Buddhists, and all came in Benares University. Like we had more than 150 monks in one of the hostels from Thailand. And 11 o'clock they eat their chicken. Itna bhet par chicken kaya. Then they came and gave a talk on ahimsa. So, and the best chicken, if you want to get in Benares, we used to go to their Sengupta house hostel and eat from their mess, and they cook themselves, Thai monks. So this is food habits, and let us not judge anybody on the basis of somebody's food habits. That's what I wanted to say. Sir,
the monks of Ramakrishna Mission they also eat fish and meat. Because Vivekananda was also liberal on this aspect. That you need to build your.
Swami Vivekananda said that thing which is going inside is not going to make you pure and pure. But what will come out of your heart and your mind will make you pure and pure. All things, bad thoughts will come from inside only, not from outside.
Thank you, sir. Sir, and one observation that I wanted to make. Actually, I recently submitted my PhD on narrative self. I worked on the narrative self. So I could relate to this essentialist and non-essentialist discussion. This narrative self challenges the traditional Western view of self as essential, core, unchangeable. And on the other hand, they talk about this social construction, the self as a social construction. So that part I could relate to that observation I wanted to share. Sir.
Ananya, in the continental philosophy, especially in the continental Europe, the philosophy is the rise and the fall of the self. Now, what you see, you take anybody, Bucco, Derrida, in the continental tradition, is the fall of the self. There is no hard stuff as a self there. Okay, so that happened in India 25 centuries ago.
Yes.
The fall of the hard stuff, permanent, which is been there, that happened 25 centuries ago. And that is nothing but the Buddhist literature tells me. Whatever we get from them, the fall of the self, and there is a famous book called The Rise and Fall of the Self in Continental Tradition, Continental Philosophy by Robert Solomon. Okay, there is a famous book. And if you read that book, Are Baba, this has happened in Indian tradition 25 centuries ago. In the 5th century BC, this gentleman, Siddhartha Gautama, was going around and preaching the same thing.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yeah, history repeats itself.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Over to our head, Dr. Devabrata Shah. I would request you to give the formal vote of thanks.
Thank you, Ananda.
Sir, I have a question. Do Buddhists,
Yeah. Go on, go on.
sir, do Buddhists believe that life is only suffering? That
Sir, could you hear the question? It
I
was
could
not
not
audible
hear.
to me.
sir, can I audible?
You are
Yeah,
audible.
you are
Do
audible,
Buddhists
please.
believe that life
Yeah,
is
please.
only suffering or
Yeah.
something else?
মনিকা, তোমার আওয়াজটা কেটে যাচ্ছে, একটু জোরে কথা
No,
বলো, জোরে বলো।
Sir, I have a question that Buddhists believe that life is only suffering or something else, sir?
Ananya, what she asked me,
Yes,
can you
yes.
tell
She
me?
is asking
I could not.
whether the Buddhists say that life is only about suffering or something else also.
There is an existential suffering. What's your name? Who is asking me the
Sir,
question?
my name is Monica Bowdy and there is a my name Soup Jasmine is so now.
So she is
Yeah,
Monica,
Monica.
yeah, our fourth semester student.
Fourth semester student, sir,
Monica.
new year, sir.
Okay. You know, Monica, there is an existential suffering. It's not a permanent suffering which exists there. There is, not only in Buddhism. Let me tell you, Monica, how this suffering notion comes into Buddha. The notion of suffering, for the first time in the history of Indian philosophy, Indian ideas, comes in the Sankhya system. The Sankhya Karika first verse, dukkha traya bhigadat, means the three kinds of sufferings in Sankhya system. And when Buddha was alive, he was a student, Siddhartha Gautam, who got the best of the education of the time. During his time, the 6th century BC, he was given the best of education and Sankhya philosophy was taught to him. This is Mary Manai. This is what I understand. And this notion of suffering, it is not because of he saw that man, old man and all. These are the narratives which in front of me. Philosophically, human beings are in a predicament. There is suffering, an existential suffering. And our striving is to get rid of that suffering. Whether for the Sankhyas, there is spiritual, there is metaphysical, and there is also what you can say, adibodhic, means in internal, external, and the spiritual sufferings are also. Bhuta Preda also can give you suffering. Dukkha Traya Bhikada, that's what Sankhya Karika 1 says. Karika 1 says. So Buddha got this notion of suffering, notion of dukkham, sarvam dukkham. There is sufferings in the world, comes not from his own invention, though people will say that. It is coming from the common heritage of Indian philosophizing. And what happens? Our strive and philosophizing and the entire activity is to get rid of that suffering. And end result is not suffering. End result is a end of suffering. And that's it. Existential suffering will have an existential end that will end. And that we are striving towards that one. So dukkham is only the beginning for them. And if you don't realize the dukkham, then you cannot get rid of that sukham. The entire teaching of Buddha is what? There is suffering. And if there is a suffering, if there is something existing, it should have a cause. And if something has a cause, it should end. And if that should be end, there should be ways to end it. So the Four Noble Truth goes like that. That's the most important is the third paradigm of the truth. That means end of the suffering. And suffering you can't negate. Even coming for this lecture with my candle was a trouble for me. You know that one. I took the candle. And don't think that, but there is joy in that one. So that when electricity came, I extinguished my candle. But I'm telling you, you can't run away from the candle. And Buddha never said that you should run away from the world. World is part of you, and this you have to live with it. Life is to be lived. Life is not to be solved. Life is to be lived with all its predicaments and difficulties, and you will overcome. That's it. Okay.
Okay,
So
sir.
don't give Buddhism alone the repository of dukkha concept. It's
There it
in
refers
blended.
to a sir, fundamental life is that.
Pardon?
So
Pardon?
thank you, sir.
Monica, I could not get you.
So she's saying thanks. She's thanking you, sir.
And thanks for this.
Okay. Sarvam dukkham dukkham. Next statement is sarvam kshanigam kshanigam. That even that dukkham also is
I know
momentary.
that.
Sarvam dukkham dukkham. Everything is suffering. The second statement of Buddha, sarvam kshanigam kshanigam. Even that suffering is momentary, not permanent.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, over to
Thank
you,
you, sir.
Devabrata.
Thank you
You
very
can
much, sir, for your valuable
Anandi, you
lecture.
can switch off someone's microphone. Somebody is speaking. I can't hear. You can mute all. After that, he can switch on his.
Yeah. Thank you very much, sir, for your valuable lecture. It is also useful and will help us and our students to understand and realize the Buddhist ethics. Sir, you have explored the Buddhist philosophy from a new angle and analyzed from an ethical point of view. Sir, your lecture opened a new vision to go research on Buddhist ethics. Your lecture has enriched us. Thank you again, sir, for your virtual presence and thought-provoking lecture.
Thank you, sir.
So thank you. Take care, sir.
You too. Have a nice
Yes,
lunch
sir.
now.
Yeah.
You are not serving lunch to me. Usually I get a lunch whenever I go for a